Hi, in this video we're going to explore a little bit of the background to our unit on civil rights history in the United States. Now the main emphasis of this unit is the period 1954 to 1968, and we'll talk about why those years matter and so on further into the course. But at the very outset we're going to step back in time, and we're also going to step back and look at the United States from its earliest period. We're going to look at, in this video, the founding documents which set up the United States. We're going to have a little bit of a look at who the founding fathers were, and we're going to explore the regional nature of the United States. It's quite different to what a lot of people think of. So let's explore that for a start by looking at a map of the states of the USA, the 50 states. Notice in this colouring our different regions. When Americans talk about the West, it goes as far as the Pacific West, California, Oregon, Washington State. When Americans talk about the Midwest, it's a fair bit over to, and it's the pink area there, towards the north and even northeast, you might argue. When Americans talk about the South, it includes Texas, right over where a lot of people think that's the West, but it's really the Southwest. And when Americans talk about the North, they're really talking about the Northeast. So have a look at this nation and how very clearly it defines the regional nature of the country. When we look at this a little bit differently, we get another breakdown of the regions, and we need to be a little bit comfortable with the regional initials. We need to recognize that Washington, WA, in the Pacific Northwest, is also a state. We have Washington, DC, the District of Columbia, the city over here on the east. Washington, DC, often thought about as a northern city, but it's actually located in the southern part of the United States. When we talk about the South, it gets broken into 3 distinct sections as well. So America, very regional. Of course, to the north of the United States is the nation of Canada. To the south is the Caribbean Sea, it's the Bahamas, it's the West Indian nations, and over on the western side, south of Texas, south of California, south of Arizona and New Mexico, is Mexico itself. The non-mainland American states are Alaska to the north and Hawaii in the middle of the Pacific. This nation grew from originally 13 colonies of the British that became the 13 original states of the United States. And they had a very loose arrangement between them. What held these 13 colonies, which became the original states of the United States, together was an opposition to the British Empire, a desire to break away from the British Empire. They were in many respects quite different. So your southern colonies, southern states, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, these states were very different in nature to the northern states. So we need to explore this a little bit further. Our founding fathers, when they created the states, the United States, when they joined together by signing foundation documents and creating foundation documents, they were cobbling together a deal. And that deal really matters in the creation of the United States was formed out of a rebellion that commenced in 1776. And this battle against the British continued until, really, the early 1800s. 1812, there was a war against Britain. But during those years, the founding fathers, very masculine sounding name, the group of men we see in this artwork, who wrote the founding documents of the United States, who led the rebellion, who became the first presidents of the United States in many of their cases. These men had to find a way of creating a new nation. And they drew upon the ideas of the Enlightenment, upon the ideas of liberty that became part of the French Revolution and so on in the 1780s. They were very, very modern, and this was a democratic experiment. Their first document, which we remember today as incredibly important, is the Declaration of Independence. And it captures the spirit of what this new nation would be about. The Declaration of Independence has no legal weight in the United States. It is not a legal document, but it is a statement of the American dream. The American nation, legally, was created in the document called the United States Constitution, and it's 4 pages long. It begins with the very famous words, "We the people." The last document that was largely written by Alexander Hamilton is the Federalist Papers. And it's a document which fleshes out many of the political issues that are embedded in understanding the Constitution. So, let's get our head around how these come together. The Declaration of Independence sets up a dream. It sets up the guiding principles of the United States. The US Constitution, which was written after it, between 1787 and 1789, is a 4-page document that sets up the way in which the new nation would be run. And it is a compromise. It's a cobbling together of the interests of all of these 13 colonies that become the first 13 states of the United States. It trades off their interests to form a united nation in opposition to the British. And then the Federalist Papers are a series of 85 essays that explore what the Founding Fathers intended from the US Constitution, what the intent was behind various clauses. 4 pages doesn't quite capture every idea that the Founding Fathers had. So Alexander Hamilton, Jonathan Jay and James Madison, between them wrote these papers. Alexander Hamilton wrote most of them. They give a sense of what the American Constitution was intended to mean, at least in the ideas of perhaps Alexander Hamilton himself. As I said earlier, the Constitution rests upon the idea of modern democracy. It has the very famous words, "We the people," at its start. But we need to focus on the opening 5 or 6 lines of the Declaration of Independence, which has this very important phrase in it. "We hold these truths to be self-evident. They require no further evidence. They are truth in themselves that all can see." The Founding Fathers wrote, they believe that all men are created equal and that they are endowed by God, they're created because it was a Christian nation in their eyes, with certain unalienable rights, rights that cannot be alienated from them, rights that cannot be estranged from them, rights that cannot be separated from them. Alien meaning outsider. So all men are created equal and they are endowed by God, given by God, created with certain rights that can never be taken apart from them or taken away from them. Among those are life, liberty, freedom, and the pursuit of happiness. Now this becomes very problematic. And we need to have our eye on this idea of all men have rights, and among those are freedom. Now I'm going to come back to this source a little bit, but right now, at the outset of this course, I want to throw this idea that from the United States Constitution, from its Declaration of Independence, from the Federalist Papers, is a belief in a concept called civil rights. It's the belief that human beings have certain rights that can never be taken away from them, certain liberties, freedoms that cannot be justly violated by others.